Thank you. Good morning. Wow, this is such a contrast. It's so sunny outside. I feel like I'm in the darkest room in this building. But yeah, thanks for coming out this morning to listen to us. This is my first day at the conference. I wasn't here yesterday, but really looking forward to. Yeah, it looks like a great schedule. My name's Kaustub. I work with, as Daniel mentioned, the Circles project, and more recently working on a project called Circles Entropy. I'll tell you a little bit about it, but let's start with, for folks who don't know what Circles is, a little bit of context about Circles. I work with Circles, but I'm also a part of a developers collective called Bits Possessed. And actually, we're a small software developers collective, primarily working on trying to work on sustainable technology projects around more equitable tech. And I work with a small group of folks who usually aren't in Berlin, but some of us are here today. And I'll tell you a bit more about what their involvement with Circles is in a second, but maybe I'll just wave at the Bits Possessed gang here who are here, who've been working on Circles for the last couple of years too. So Circles. Circles is an alternative community currency system. It aims to enable communities to provide each other with basic income without involvement from the states, because a lot of states don't do basic income as they should. Circles was founded in 2020. It was launched in October of 2020 as a set of smart contracts deployed on the Gnosis chain, but also a web-based wallet which runs on circles.garden. And that's the bit that's been developed and maintained, along with the original smart contracts, that's been developed and maintained by the Bits Possessed developer collective. The project has been supported in Berlin for the last couple of years by the Circles Co-op. And there's some members from the Circles Co-op here, I believe. They are. Who have successfully run a community pilot in Berlin where there's about 30 businesses, over 30 businesses in Berlin who accept Circles. And there's this number, I'm not sure, I was told is not right. This is probably higher than this, but about 700 active members using Circles on a day-to-day basis to buy things like fresh groceries, veggies, preserves, coffee, paying for some alternative medicine and healthcare, and say that again? DappCon tickets, yeah, you could, actually a bunch of us, I didn't have to pay for my ticket this time because I'm speaking, but I know a bunch of my friends who actually bought their tickets using Circles to come to this conference. So yeah, that's possible, that's awesome. So that's been going on for a couple of years and hopefully keeps going on for a bit. So that's Circles, and that's awesome, but there's a few things that we noticed that we could make better here, because as it goes with a lot of blockchain projects, all of this stuff that happens on Circles is actually written on chain. Circles works in so I said it's deployed on the Gnosis chain as a smart contract. So we call it the Circles Hub contract. It does two things. One is enables people to, actually three things. It sets up a token contract every time someone signs up with the Circles Hub. It starts minting your basic income. We currently issue Circles as 1 circle per hour, which means you get about 720 circles a month. And then you can spend those circles. You can send those to other people and pay businesses who are selling you the goods and services I mentioned earlier. But the way this works is that it relies on a web of trust-based system. So Circles, to sign up with Circles, you need 3 people who are already using Circles to trust you. Once that happens, you have a Circles account, and then you can use the Circles tokens that are minted as your UBI to pay people who actually trust you or trust your token. And we do something called transitive trust, which means I have a friend called David. David has a friend called Jackie. Jackie trusts David. David trusts me. I don't know Jackie directly, but I have just bought some veggies from Jackie and I want to pay them. But Jackie doesn't, because Jackie doesn't trust me directly, but they do trust David. They will accept David's circles, but not mine. But in this case, what the circle system allows you to do is allows me to say pay 50 circles to David for the wedgies that I bought from Jackie, and David then pays his 50 circles to Jackie on my behalf, and that's what we call transitive trust. And most circles transactions work like this via the web of trust, where it uses the degrees of separation within your trust network to determine who trusts who and move circles around this way. But for this to happen, we write the whole web of trust on chain currently, which means that all transactions within a community can actually be looked up by a third-party observer on chain publicly, which basically lets them determine who is connected to who in a specific community, or if certain communities are connected to other communities elsewhere, right? This is a privacy risk, especially if you're working with communities at risk. In places where the state's not so cool about somebody just running a basic income project, in places where you may be connected with someone somewhere within your, because of your degrees of separation, with somebody who somehow happens to be in a place where there's like blanket crypto bans. The third one on this slide is the bit that it's kind of like it's more immediate and concerns me with what I see, how we use circles here, where so you can actually access alternative medicine, certain kinds of healthcare in Berlin using circles, but I wouldn't want that information to be public if I'm paying a therapist or if I'm paying someone to, I don't know, fix a problem with my back. I really don't want the world to know that I am paying for healthcare by like looking up what kind of transactions I'm engaging in on chain. Or it could apply to a lot of other things that I generally, maybe I don't want people to know what I'm eating or how much coffee I'm drinking. But these are things that you cannot hide today because, well, if I'm paying with circles and making a transaction in a community, you can kind of track where my circles went to and what kind of goods and services I bought. So this is something that, yeah, you may not want to make public. But anyway, the point being that all transactions within a web of trust are public today, and we want to try and fix that. Sorry, did I miss something? Sorry about that. So that's what Circle's Entropy, that's where the Circle's Entropy project came in. We've been thinking about this for the last couple of years. We wholly support the idea of being able to let communities have the autonomy in the way they engage in financial transactions within a community without the need of centralized authority, and Circles, to an extent, has allowed that, has actually helped a lot of small businesses kind of flourish because they can now accept community currency and engage with members of the community themselves. But all of this is public, as I mentioned, on chain. And I don't want to target just Circles here. I don't want to target my project. This is a problem with a lot of blockchain projects where, yeah, in the name of transparency, we actually do end up making a lot of private data kind of public, right? And all things considered, it's not so bad with Circles. Yes, the public addresses that are engaging in transactions and trusting each other are on chain, but there's very little data we collect anyway. It's basically a username and a user profile picture that you can query using the public API that Circles provides today, but no other personally identifiable information beyond that. But that sometimes can be enough to kind of like know who is who and what's happening in a network. To fix that, we started thinking about how we could maybe make Circles more privacy preserving, and that's where the Entropy project comes in. We put together a small team of cryptographers to kind of like help us think about, well, how can we offer more privacy guarantees in Circles? How can we provide users user account anonymity so they don't have to make their user information public to anyone except people they trust? How can we make sure that their balances are private? How can we make sure that all transactions are shielded? These are things that are not new. These are things that have been other projects have been doing for a while, shielded transactions and private balances and user account anonymity. But we want to do this in a way where we still want to be able to do apply this to the web of trust that Circles relies on for transitive trust and transfers, and we also want to try to provide network-level anonymity for all transactions while we are at it. So this is where we, well, most of the work that we've had to do so far is around figuring out how can we do this kind of transitive trust pathfinding that Circles currently does, where we need the web of trust data to be public currently, so we can see who's connected to who, and that's the problem we started to work on solving. So we ended up with, after a bunch of research, we ended up with having to make some decisions around what we're going to base this on. We chose to go with building Circles Entropy on top of a set of protocols developed by Anoma, which allow us to do fully shielded multi-party state transitions, and in the context of Circles, allowing us to use the max flow algorithm that Circles uses to do transitive trust, but without having to reveal user information, users having to reveal any personal information in the process. And that led us to defining the technical architecture that Circles Entropy is using, where we have, so Anoma is an intent-centric platform that allows the user to make their intents known, which are partial state transitions, that then solvers can pick up and do matchmaking to basically turn that into complete state transitions, which are like to form atomic transactions. And then you can settle this as zero knowledge proofs somewhere, in our case, a blockchain. And we do all this, and so we need people to run like, we provide resources to run what we call the solver network by running solver nodes. And to reward these solver nodes, we intend to use a utility token that will then incentivize people running these solver nodes. In our case, we want to use a token that we will issue called Enzo, but a solver can choose what they accept, and they can be incentivized the way they wish to, as long as, well, there's some sort of an agreement in the network about like what's viable. So that's the technical overview, where there is a user defines partial state transitions as intents. Solvers pick it up, try to match them with other intents that would fulfill this transaction. And once that happens, it can be verified. It can be published as a proof and verified on chain. And solvers and gossip nodes can be incentivized with the utility token. Of course, this can be used beyond Circles. We want to use this to do web of trust-based transactions for payments within Circles. But if you can actually elevate the web of trust to provide, there's many uses for like. There's many things that rely on many things that actually rely on web of trust models, right? So if you can actually elevate this to provide the kind of privacy guarantees that we wish to have with Circles, you could apply this to, more autonomous mesh credit networks. You could do community credit clearing without the need of a central authority, where communities make publish intents anonymously, and then those are matched with others to kind of like do debt clearing in the context of a community without the need of a bank. You could apply this to social media. I think it can really help solve problems around web by providing spam protection measures in a privacy-preserving distributed social media context. You can also apply this to secure private messaging. And there's many things. Basically, it comes down to the web of trust is a strong model which is used widely to build various kinds of applications on top of. And this, I could see this working in any of those contexts, but with privacy guarantees that a lot of the time doesn't come with web of trust-based models because, well, you need the web of trust available for you to compute connections and enable transactions, right? So that's what so those are the problems we're trying to solve with circles and hopefully apply that to some other other applications. The current state of affairs with Circles Entropy is that we started working on this project with a small team of cryptographers earlier this year. We went through a pretty intense research phase between, I'd say, March and about now-ish. We published our technical findings and our goals as a black paper in June. You can read that on the Circles Entropy website. There'll be a link in a second on the next slide. We're currently working on applying the algorithm, the Maxflow algorithm that Circles currently uses to do this kind of pathfinding and transitive trust and transactions. Using Taiga, which is the framework that is a part of the set of protocols that Anoma provides, and we want to publish a proof of concept of how this intent-centric solving with the solver network would work towards the end of this year. Our end goal is to make Circles more privacy-preserving with Circles using the Entropy protocol sometime next year, ideally by summer, autumn next year. And that's where we're at. And if you'd like to learn more, we have published the black paper on entropy.circles.coop. We also have a booth downstairs. There's a Circles table where you can, if you have Circles, spend Circles to buy some of the things that I mentioned earlier. There's some beautiful things that you can spend your Circles on while you're here at DappCon. But also, importantly, if you want to learn about Circles Entropy or Circles UBI in general, there's one of the cryptographers working on Circles Entropy, Davey, is here. Will be at the booth today. There's also other Circles developers who will be at the booth now and then. So come talk to us about Circles. We're also in the process of doing some fundraising to continue to work on Circles and Circles Entropy. So if you'd like to know more about how you could engage with us around that, come talk to us. Have a look at the website and read the black papers, entropy.circles.coop. Yeah, and that's me. Thank you very much.
So if I understand correctly, if you want to pay someone who you don't trust, you need to...
Sorry, I can't really hear you very well.
If you want to pay someone who you don't trust, you need to ask someone who you trust to pay on behalf of you, correct? And so actually, if that's the case, that means your friend knows what you pay for, and which means, but actually related to the privacy issue is that if you trust your friend, it doesn't really mean that you want your friend know everything you buy, correct? So I just have this question on how to solve this problem.
Yeah, so the question is, currently the way Circles works is with transitive trust, yes. So if you trust me, but I'm trying to pay, say, them, and they trust you, you would know that I paid them, say, 10 Circles because it's actually you who paid them 10 circles and I paid you 10. So your point is valid here that currently you could basically go, you would know as the person who trusts me to enable this transaction that what I paid for and who I paid and probably what I paid for, right? And this is one of the things that we want to kind of like solve with Entropy by not routing transactions the way it does currently, but basically determining that there is by determining that there is the path that exists between us without actually having to route the transaction through you. So I should be able to send somebody circles directly as long as we can prove to everybody involved here that yes, that transitive trust path exists. So in this case, it wouldn't be that you would only accept my circles and they would accept your circles. Ideally, they would accept circles directly from me, but your role would be to validate that there is a trust path that exists here.
Thank you very much. I have two questions. Question one is, where does the value of UBI come from?
Sorry, say that again, please.
Where does the value of the UBI come from? And the second question is, so what I learned is that you understand that privacy is a #1 blocker for you to reach adoption or scale. And I wonder what are, apart from privacy, the #1 blockers for you to reach the next level of growth?
So the first question, where does the value for this UBI come from? So simply put, the value for the UBI within the current context of circles comes from the community. So your tokens are actually your personal tokens, which only have value if someone else trusts those tokens and accepts them. But of course, that's that's a very simple explanation to a more complex question that you're asking. In the context of Berlin, the Circles Co-op has been able to do a bunch of fundraising in the past to run a subsidized pilot where we've subsidized businesses who are accepting circles to a certain extent. And also using that to kind of like leverage, trying to create a community and try to build more loops, more circular loops within businesses, so businesses can trade using circles with each other that they're accepting from the community. But it's been a subsidized pilot, and I think there's a few more examples I can think of where there's like subsidized pilots of circles right now. But there are other models that you can use instead of trying to do large amounts of fundraising to subsidize businesses. So there, for example, there's a project called Ethic Hub in Mexico who do this, where they actually support a lot of farmers, especially small business coffee farmers, and anyone can invest in them by actually buying tokens that provide that in return provide liquidity for these businesses. But then these tokens can be staked, and then there's pretty attractive staking rewards for people who actually are investing in these tokens. So that's one model that I can think of. But with Circles, we actually have a group currency layer on top of the UBI layer now, where communities can actually pool their Circles tokens, and via the current Web of Trust and the transitive trust path, mint a specific group token, which could be for a specific community, and that token could be used to bring in liquidity in various ways. There are many models. There is no the value really again comes down to how the community decides to create value for it. But there are definitely economic and technical models that you can apply on top of the Web of Trust-based UBI system that we have currently to bring in value. I don't remember what the second question was. It was about scale and privacy. Can you? But we are also out of time. Maybe we can chat outside. Yeah.
So, thank you very much, Kaustop. If there are remaining questions, then just join them on their booth. Next, I'm proud to introduce you Shauna Brown. She will also talk about circles, but this time about the implementation of circles in Indonesia, Bali. Welcome, Shauna.